so lovely of Jules. So thanks again. And as she touched upon considering going Salahless, I think that's probably something we should have a little chat about, considering there is somebody here who has been advocating the Salahless
Oh, here we go.
since the beginning of the season.
Who's
And
that?
I have no idea who that could be. But actually, it ties quite nicely into our first question of the evening from @Lonesome Pundit. It says, Liverpool defence worth keeping for the next 4. Can see arguments for Salah/Mane, but 3 very tricky fixtures for the defence and possible rotation for Southampton. So I know there's 2 lots of question there, but just so you don't get completely hung up on the whole Salah list, Kurt, I'll throw it over to you first.
I'll just talk about defenders then.
Well, you can
limited.
brag
you know
a little
like.
bit if you want to. It's all good.
Oh well, obviously this is the first non-clean sheet, or first sort of blank, I suppose. They didn't get any attacking returns. Sorry, in the Leicester game. So had 3 clean sheets. So people like Trent AA, constant foray of points, and then also all of a sudden it drops to 2 points for him this week. So it's an interesting one because he is. There are some. I'd say the central defenders. If you've got people like Van Dijk or you've got Joe Gomez in, I don't see them getting much. The only time they'll be getting attacking returns is from corners. But for Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson, Andrew, something Robertson, I never remember his first name, they're always going forwards. And you've seen it, I think a few times last season with Robertson, he charges forward and quite often he will join Salah, Firmino, Mane going forward as that third attacker. So they're not too much of a worry. And I look at the games, there are some terrible games, but Southampton, they should be getting some returns in that. It's the B side. Spurs have struggled and they're playing at Wembley, and you see that they've played poor, against Watford, and they've got beat. They don't play poor and win. I think Liverpool didn't have the best of games against Leicester, but they won. So I'd put them up against that. Man City is no point looking at that and thinking they could get attacking returns. It's worth looking at those games, calling them a write-off, but you've also got the thing of you shouldn't be you doubled up on your Liverpool defenders. So I've just got Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm looking at my defence. I could play a 3-man defence of Mendy, Azpilicueta and Alonso. Mm-hmm. So if you don't need to get rid of him, if you're looking at your defence and you've got, let's say 2 4.5s, a 4.0 there, you're thinking, I'm in a bit of trouble here. Maybe then, because you could get some attacking returns elsewhere, if you've got players to replace them, it might be worth just benching them. Because even then, if they score points, they're still going to rise up in price. So, and apart from that, it's a good job that some people are finally listening to the FPL Oracle and not going with Salah anymore. So it's about time, is all I'm going to say. But I won't get hung up on it.
Yeah, do not get your head too big.
It's big enough as it is.
It's so difficult, isn't it? I'm actually considering going Salahless on a wild card at the moment. The cash it frees up is just ridiculous. I'm in the same boat with Aubameyang as well, selling him and whether to keep him or not because of the cash it frees up. But Mane and Salah are so close in the stats right now. Salah has 2 goals and 1 assist to Mane's 4 goals. I'm tempted to own both, if I'm honest. So actually, I've gone from thinking early on in the week that I'll go Salahless to now thinking I might go for both. I know their run of fixtures is difficult, but I'm trying not to get a bit dragged into the fixtures this season because already we've seen a lot of surprises where we didn't think we would see them, if you see what I mean. So I'm trying not to get too bogged down by that, and then get a little bit more of a look at Mo in the next few weeks if I keep hold of him, because then it'll be quite easy to move him to Hazard, who's doing quite well at the moment with his 2 goals and 2 assists. And but Hazard always trolls me, so I'm a little bit worried on that one. I don't have quite as much as Jules has, quite as much luck as Jules has with Hazard, I'm afraid. So, Jay, what do you think? Salahless?
Okay, I'm not going to sit here and say there hasn't been a little bit of doubt in my mind. With the fact that Mane...
That hurt you to say that,
yes,
didn't
it? The fact that Mane has been very close to equaling all the underlying stats, and the fact that he has scored more points is very worrying, because he comes in, even with his price rises, he comes in as cheaper. And I will accept anyone's argument of going to Hazard for the next 4 fixtures, just because of Hazard's performances and the fixtures. But what I will not accept is that Salah isn't an option for this FPL season with the underlying stats he's got. 19 attempts on goal for a midfielder. If we compare him to Mane, that's 10 for Mane. However, goal threat from inside the box is similar, 12 to 10 in Salah's favour. And shots on target is 7 to 6 in Salah's favour as well. Now, all we need is Salah to start scoring those goals from outside the box that we know he can score, scoring those goals that we've seen him score against big sides as well as small sides. We just have to look at them playing Man City in the Champions League last season. Salah, Mane, they all perform against the big sides as well. And I also think Liverpool's game almost suits playing bigger opponents, because they press and they're more likely to succeed against a side that's trying to pass it around the back, which is what the bigger sides do. Don't get me wrong, I do not expect Liverpool to get clean sheets against the likes of Man City and Chelsea, but Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold can go forward and potentially get some points from assists or goals as well. So will I get Salah out? He's currently out of my wildcard team, but that's just because I'm worried he might drop in price. He'll probably come back in because I'm hoping so many people drop him, his price drops and I can get him cheaper and then make some profit that way. But I think a lot is being made of one blank, because Salah still has been returning points. The only worry is Mane is still getting points at a better rate than Salah, at least for the first 4 game weeks. So I'm not giving up my faith, but then I'm the same guy that didn't give up faith on Harry Kane for the beginning of last season, and that didn't exactly work out for me. So maybe I'm just too loyal to players once I think they're a real option in the game.
Brett?
Yeah, it's funny because I knew last week that if Salah did blank the game week before the international break, that all these wildcard teams are going to come out without Salah. I knew this would kind of happen.
You could see Kurt sat there like he is now, feeling all radius.
As we spoke about last time, like I can get why people want to build a team without him, because of the team that you can build without Salah. You know, there's no doubt that extra 13 million can go a long way. I've obviously used my wild card and I've kept Salah. I'm not at the stage where I'm going to risk dropping him just yet. When people talk about the fixtures, it's not so much the Premier League fixtures that worry me. It's because they've got Tottenham away next. Salah scored there last year. Liverpool might not win there, but Salah can score in any game. Last year he scored against Chelsea, Spurs. We scored against a lot of big sides. But it's the Champions League fixtures that do concern me a little bit, because of the difficult group that Liverpool got as well. It's not like they didn't get a good luck of the draw with the Champions League group, whereas Man City did. And I think I can't quote Man City's group right this second, but they had a much more favourable group. And therefore, I think, well, maybe Guardiola can play a slightly weakened. I know they're going to focus on the Champions League, but I think some of the games there are quite favourable. But with Liverpool playing PSG and Napoli in the first 2 Champions League games, they're really big, tough games. And when I look then at Southampton, which for me is like, wow, I got a captain Salah for this game. That's in between. That's after PSG and before Chelsea. So that's where it does get a bit worrying. I'm not, like I said, I'm not at a stage where I'm going to drop Salah just yet. All the stats are there. We saw the season he had last year. And, like I said, all the touches in the penalty area, the shots, he's almost top of everything still. So the performances are still there. And because of his high ownership, it is a big gamble not to own him. And what I've been thinking is that anyone who's wildcarding now, this is what I want to, I was going to put a tweet out about this just so everyone can understand.
Pearl of wisdom. I'm on a wildcard. Tell me.
This might sound like the most obvious thing ever, right? But just put yourself, you're an FPL manager. Put yourself in this scenario. Okay, so you're on the wildcard. You decide you get the genius idea that you can go without Salah, right? The deadline for game week 5 comes. Okay, you haven't got Salah. 30 minutes later, once the game updates, you can click my team and start planning for game week 6. And if you don't own Salah, you're not going to have him with Southampton at home next to him in your team. And I think to not have Salah with Southampton at home underneath him would be a big concern for me personally. So I know that sounds like the most obvious thing, but just put yourself in that situation where everyone's people are screenshotting Salah with Southampton at home, and and you haven't got him. That for me would be a bit too much of a worry. So I'm going to give it a few more weeks before dropping him completely.
And then the team sheet comes up and there's no Salah, and everyone who's done that is like,
probably my luck, yeah. But
I think there's an argument to say though that Salah's the easiest player to transfer out of your side, so it doesn't have to be done on a wild card. You can change Salah to absolutely anyone at any point in the game. So if you think the Southampton fixtures one to keep him for, maybe keep him for the Spurs one as well. And it's not going to be difficult to then get rid of him for the fixtures after Southampton.
This is really why I didn't want to be wildcarding this early, because people was like, we've got all of the information. Well, to me, we haven't, because we haven't quite settled in exactly yet to who's getting rotated when for Champions League, and we're still not entirely sure which players are going to hit form this season. So that's why I prefer to use mine much later on down the line, but I kind of got forced into that a little bit this season. But just to touch on the defenders point, my end, I'm not considering dropping Robertson yet, if I'm honest. He's second behind Mo for passes that led to a shot per 90 minutes. And as you all said, he's got attacking threat. And this season, you know what, the defenders are just killing it when it comes to attacking threat. So I can see Kurt's side of things with having, is it Trent, Kurt, you said you've got? Yeah, to have that cover. But at the moment, for me, it's like keep Robson for his attacking threat, see how he gets on in some of the tougher fixtures. But again, he's a bit like Salah, as are all of those defenders. They're always going to be very easy to trade down for somebody a lot cheaper, and then, you know, find an alternative that's cheaper and spend the money elsewhere. Happy days.
Yeah, I think, you know, sometimes those decisions can pay off, but it's like to get rid of Robertson now in the form that he's in, for example, it could be a genius move if he blanks in the next 2 or 3 game weeks, but you're almost trying to predict. And like maybe it's worth just waiting a game week or 2. Like him blanking in 1 or 2 game weeks more isn't going to kill your team or kill your rank. So I think if you own Robertson in the form that he's been in, it would be a bit criminal not to go without him. I can see why people wouldn't because of the fixtures, but because he's so heavily owned and he's doing so well, it's being a bit, maybe trying to be too clever, and it could cost you, you know?